How are you?
I'm good. Nice to meet you. I like your name.
Thank you. I like yours. What's the story behind yours? I've never heard of Season before.
Yeah, my mom, she couldn't decide between autumn and summer, and she liked, so she just said, "I'm going to name her all the seasons."
Okay.
And so, and I'm the only girl. I have three brothers, and they're actually pretty normal names: Jeremy, Randy, and Derek. But I came, I got seasoned, so which is kind of cool because it works, in this industry. It's I have a built-in stage name, and I do get asked all the time, "Is that your real name or your stage name?" I'm like, it's both. It's my real first name, and it happens to be a great stage name.
Yeah, and it's not a name that you're gonna have a bunch of things on Google. It's just your name coming up.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, are you? Am I right? You just got off like a radio tour?
I did. Yeah, I just got back. I guess it was yesterday. Days are kind of running together, but yeah, I was gone from May 2nd, and I just got back, and I went everywhere, all through Texas, went through Oklahoma, Memphis, Nashville, Chattanooga, Knoxville, South Carolina, North Carolina, then Florida, and then made my way back. So it was long, but it's fun. It's a fun part of my job is getting to go meet all the radio programmers and the DJs and sort of hit the pavement in a sense. And the one thing that I kept getting over and over again is like, wow, you're kind of old school. Like nobody's doing this anymore. And I'm like, well, because I think it's important. I think when you get to meet someone face to face and they get to, hear your story, and there's just a connection I think that's lost in all this digital era. So I'm okay with putting in the work and going out and meeting people because I think it makes a difference.
Do you find that maybe you get a bit more airplay doing that, kind of because they know you a bit more? They're more inclined to maybe put your song on a few more times a day or so?
I do because I think that they see the the work that I'm doing and just the investment of just coming out and doing all this stuff. I mean, they see I'm doing the work, and so yeah, they want to help out because they actually can see I'm a real person doing it, and I'm an independent artist, and while I have some people on my team, I'm still an independent artist, and no one can do the work that I can do, which is just the meeting and the greeting and the getting in the van and driving down the road and playing the shows. Like there's certain things that only I can do that even if you have a whole team of people, I mean, they can't do that type of work for you. So I think it does. It pays off in the long run because they get to really know who you are, and then it feels like they're a part of helping you come up. They're like on your team, so they feel a sense of like there's a gratitude on their side where they're like, hey, I helped her out. Like so, I think it's cool that way.
You have your new album coming out called No Restraint. You talked about how you did this during the pandemic and what made it so now's the time to release it because it's been obviously 3 years.
Well, it took a while, of course, to get it done and yeah, to find the time to release it. It was almost 2 years of not being able to work, not being able to play shows, and it didn't make sense to put out a record when I couldn't promote it properly, which entails doing all the radio and the PR and stuff, um, and then there's a budget behind it too. Try as an independent artist, it takes you got to get the momentum to get out there and to push it out. And I just didn't want to put anything out. This was a really good record, and I was so proud of it. So I wanted to do it justice. And also, everybody else was putting out music because between 2020 and 2021, everybody was recording music. We were all kind of in the same boat, and I feel like there was just this onslaught of music coming down, and I, I just felt like it would serve it better if it would just wait, and it was just waiting for the right time, and now was the time, and I wanted enough lead time to really promote it. So I started the promotion on this record a year ago. Last summer is when I started, going, okay, this it's done. The mixing, the mastering, like everything's done except for the artwork and all the other little things. But I wanted enough time to put it out properly.
Hey, just popping in here to say, if you like what you see so far, I'd love if you hit that subscribe button. Now back to the video. Yeah, for sure. You released your first single, Help Me, and you've talked about kind of where that song came from, some depression and kind of the desperation of the time. And how does that influence your writing, kind of your mood and your state of mind?
Sometimes I feel like music and writing is definitely very therapeutic. So if I'm feeling moody, it's going to come out, in my music. And I I don't always like try to write from a perspective of like, oh, I feel happy or I feel in love or whatever. I don't think like, oh, I'm going to write this sad song, but sometimes, yeah, it just sort of seeps out and it influences my writing. And other times, it could just be a melody that I get or some sort of a hook will kind of drop in, and then I'm just writing. It's very interesting process. It's never like one thing all the time, but it's a long.
You also talked about how Memphis Minnie influenced you. Do you find yourself when you make songs kind of putting yourself into a different perspective and kind of making maybe a story behind it that might not necessarily be yours?
For sure. I call it character writing. And I have, a couple of dozen songs that I have character written where, yes, I will pretend to be someone else, or I'm thinking like in a very cinematic way where I'm writing a 3-minute movie essentially, and I'm trying to, convey the emotions of someone else and putting myself in someone else's shoes. And that can help get me out of my own head and get a little bit more creative if I have the ability to just go, okay, the song isn't about me, but I'm just going to write from this perspective. But even so, I think as humans, we all share common emotions. So even though maybe a song isn't about me, I still share the common emotion of sadness or loss or whatever it is. And that's sort of what I think unifies us. And I think it's a cool thing about music.
Completely. It's kind of, you can completely connect with someone that isn't anything like you, have the exact, different circumstances, and just completely connect to a song, even if you didn't go through that exact thing. There's like something in it that just speaks to you.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty magic. And that's the beauty too, where if I get off stage or someone says, they relate to a song or they cried because it reminded them of this, and everybody puts their own background, their own story, their own journey into a song, because that's how we relate. We go, well, I felt this before. And so it's kind of neat to see where people can take a song or how they hear it or view it. And it's like, once I write it, I can think it's about one thing, but once it's out there, it turns into whatever. I don't have any control over what people think about it, and I think that's great.
Do you have like a more recent song that you can think of that like kind of hit you in the chest, kind of feel wise?
Yes, actually, I just wrote a song. It's called "The Storm," and it's not out yet. I don't have it on an album, but it it pretty much wrote itself, and it's a very emotional song, but it's also got a lot of what's the word? There's hope. Even though the song kind of is bittersweet, there's a hope about it. And for the longest time, when I would try to sing it out, I would get like, a lump at the back of my throat, and I could almost not sing it for a very long time. And it turns out it's like I'm not the only one. Now that I'm singing it out, I've had people come up to me and say that song brought me to tears. And and that song. I hope to get it recorded very soon because it's a really good one, and I think it's the best song I've ever written so far. But it definitely is. The storm is just the archetype, the archetypal theme of like the energy of sometimes you have to sit in a level of acceptance of wherever you are in your life, and you literally have to let the storm just pass over you. And while that sucks and sometimes it's not fun, there's always sort of a renewal process because a storm might devastate and destruct everything, but through it all, eventually, the sun's going to come back out, things are going to change, and sometimes destruction is necessary for a renewal. So that was sort of that song. And yeah, so be on the lookout for that one. I'm already making plans to get it recorded soon.
Would you just like release it as a single or wait till the next album?
I think it would be a standalone single because I've had so many people go, "Where's the song? I want this song," and I'm going, I haven't even put out my new album yet. I have to kind of pace it, but I'm thinking it would be a standalone single, and I'm thinking in the fall, and then eventually I might put it on another album. I can always tack it on to something else, but it's a really good one, and I've already got people wanting it. So I think it when dozens and dozens and dozens of people go, "I need this song in my life," then that tells me something. Like, gotta get it done. So
I can't wait to hear it. So your sound is quite varied from song to song and kind of album, and I've seen you joke about it in videos. Do you set out to do that, or is it kind of something that like the song you just do what the song dictates?
yeah, you nailed it. I don't ever think I'm just gonna stay in one lane or just write something in particular. It's just whatever comes through. And I've gotten to a point in my life, and I always have been this way, where I just didn't care that it was country or that it was folk or that I'm writing a pop song or this is a rock song or I've written some jazz songs. I just never thought about it too much because I was like, well, my name is Season. Like it's kind of expected at this point. A lot of people just know that I'm sort of all over the place, and I don't really stay in one lane. And so at this point, like, I don't care, and I just go, well, that's just my sound. My sound is this, and I'm okay with that. And yeah, so I just go, it's fine, whatever comes through. And if it's a good song and it makes the record, then great. And I just, it's very hard. If I would, the closest thing I ever did to making like a true album was same time I put out my last album in 2019. I put out a Texas country record called Neon Side of Town, and it was a very specific Texas country, which is different than Nashville country or anything else. And it had 4 top 40 singles on it on the Texas charts, and I specifically picked songs that fell in that genre, and there was a few that actually weren't, but because we put it was a production style. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, you can, if you put a very specific production style behind certain songs, they can all be country or pop or whatever leaning you want it to be. So that, anyway, Neon Side of Town was the closest thing to like, I'm going to stay in this lane, Texas country, and this is what it is. And I love that record, and it's great. But yeah, for this next record, I mean, like you said, it's kind of all over the place. It's like you hear one thing and then it doesn't represent the next thing, but there's still a cohesiveness to the record, but it's very bipolar.
Actually, we're seeing as we've been talking about more recent stuff, where did you get your start in music?
So I picked up a guitar when I was about 15 years old. I taught myself how to play guitar and piano. I used to write a lot of short stories and poems. I was very big into poetry at a young age. And I just I sort of had the light bulb moment where I realized that songs were just poems put to music. And so there was a power that I felt when I picked up a guitar and I would take a poem that I had and just start making a melody with chords I was making up. And I was like, this is a thing. Like, this is cool. I can do this. And it just came really, really naturally to me. And I I ended up moving to Nashville when I was right out of high school, and I lived there for several years and just wanted to learn more about songwriting. So that's why I moved there. And I mean, I guess that's kind of where I got my start. So I always had sort of the dream of like being a musician, being an artist, even though I didn't really know what that meant. I used to think you had to get a record deal or you had to get discovered or something like that. And it wasn't until 2010 that the music industry was changing. Streaming was really coming along. You had the internet, and you were seeing this DIY thing kind of really explode. And it was like, okay, this is kind of the new frontier, to where independent artists can do it without a label. I mean, it it's easier, but it's also harder. There's a big thing in between there where, yeah, you can put your own music out there, but there's things that a record label would do for you that now you're responsible for doing because you pretty much are the record label. And so there's a lot of responsibility there, but there's a lot of freedom, because I'm able to make records. And so since 2010, I started kind of going down the path of, how do you become an indie artist? Like, what does that even mean? Just learning the business. And because I realized it wasn't just about, oh, you can be talented and writing songs and playing shows. There was this whole other side of getting your music out there, and what did that even mean? So that took several years and multiple albums of me kind of moving through the machine, even the indie machine, to finally get even to where I'm at right now. And it's just a process. I think it's part of the evolution of an independent artist.
If is there something maybe to the approach of making something now that you'd give that yourself in 2010, like, okay, this is what you need to do?
Just to keep focused on moving forward. I was so worried about everything being absolutely perfect that it was almost like afraid to launch at first. Like, I would spend a lot of time just looking over every little minute detail that I wouldn't actually like. It's like press the send button or whatever. Could be, it was everything from website to pictures to cards. I mean, because when I was just getting started, I mean, you had to get all of your assets together and kind of have your stuff. And I guess if I had to say to myself that long ago, I would say just put it out there and just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Don't stress about it because you're going to keep changing. This isn't going to stay the same. So while you can put out a website right now, it just needs to be out there right now. It doesn't have to be perfect. Yes, get the good stuff, but then move on and don't fret about it because you have songs to write and you've got recording studios to book and you've got a million other things and you're getting hung up on one little detail. You're wasting time. So that's definitely what I would say. It's just, you're going to keep changing. Your albums are going to change. Everything's going to change. So what you put out now is just a little snapshot of what you're doing, and it's not forever.
Yeah, I completely get that. I'm still trying to like teach myself that. I feel like in 10 years it'll be like, okay, somewhere along the line you got that, but I'm trying to tell myself that, but I'm not listening to myself.
I know, and I still, don't get me wrong, I'm still like hung up on certain stuff. I mean, I'll lament about just, make sure it's the right picture or the right this, or, I mean, but I think it gets easier. You're able to just go yes or no, or like that works, that doesn't work. And I think that only comes with time. And I think that's the beauty of the evolution of whatever. I mean, a small business. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. You know, we're all out here doing our thing, our creative thing, and I think that's the beauty of it. Is like that we're all learning every single step. So I think it's not good, it's not bad. It's just part of the process.
You work with a trio out on when you perform. Do you have like your go-to players, or does the lineup change?
Yeah. So like when I'm in Texas right now, I the last couple of years after the pandemic, I mean, it was like just trying to get back out there again. I have had the same trio, so an upright bass player and a percussionist. That lineup has pretty much stayed the same for the last year and a half. But I do have a band in Florida that I just reunited with when I was doing some shows there. And there's some key players in Florida that have been with me for a decade. And but some of the other players kind of rotate. Um, Prior to the pandemic, I sort of had a rotating cast of players for different shows because every show is kind of different, and some band members can travel, some can't. But when you're talking like big players, that's their job too, is that they're just full-time. They call them sidemen or session players, you know, and they can pick up a gig anytime, anywhere, and it's like no time has passed. They're just that good. You can just send them the music, and then they show up on stage, and it's like you've been playing together forever. So I'm actually looking to expand after the summer and sort of regroup and get some other players in. I'm building a band right now for next year, essentially, to get out and promote this record a little bit more. So I'll be having some other players on board, and but yeah, I mean, between doing some solo stuff here and there, I mostly prefer playing with a band because it's a lot of fun. And you know, if things kind of move in the right direction, then I'll be able to secure solid players that will travel with me full time. But it takes a lot of commitment from other players to be out on the road, and some of them can't commit. So it's like you might have players that can commit to, you know, six weeks here or whatever. But you know, that's just the name of the game.
Going back to calling back to Memphis Mini, who are some of your influences, both past and maybe more recent?
So I love Motown, and I especially loved Ray Charles. I loved Gladys Knight. Stevie Wonder is a big one. Love Stevie Wonder. Um, I loved Tina Turner, which we just lost. Um, and I loved, you know, even like in the 70s, I definitely loved Heart, Fleetwood Mac, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles. Um, and, you know, in the 80s, of course, I really loved Phil Collins, Billy Joel, Cyndi Lauper. And more recently, I would say I really am enjoying Jamie Harris. I love Brittany Howard from the Alabama Shakes, Margot Price, Nikki Lane, Mark Broussard. Um, Man, there's so many. Paul Cauthen right now is really cool. Um, American Aquarium. There's some Texas artists that I really like. Bree Bagwell, she's really good. And Jamie Harris is actually a Texan as well, but I think she's up in Nashville. But she's an amazing songwriter. Check her out.
Just as we're wrapping up here, this is a question I ask everyone. If you were to meet a civilization that had never heard music before, what would you play them? It can be one of your songs or just like a song in history.
Wow. That would be, you know, I think I would play them Imagine. Imagine all the people. There's something about that song that I've loved since I was a kid. The melody always hit me. I remember I used to cry as a kid, like when I would hear that song and others by the Beatles. Um, but I think it really sums up lyrically. It's just a great song. I don't know. Yeah, that's the one I would go with.
If you have a few more minutes, we could get into some of your favorite things.
Sure.
Oh, okay. These are just like kind of rapid fire. You don't have to think too much about them, but if you want to expand a little bit.
Okay.
This is seemingly the hardest one always for people. What's your favorite song?
Oh my goodness. Favorite. Oh no. That's impossible. That's an impossible question, Jade. Uh,
I like to make people squirm.
right. Well, and I would have said, okay, okay. I'm gonna go back to yesterday. Yesterday, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Album.
Ooh, She's So Unusual by Cyndi Lauper.
Okay. Band or artist?
Mm, Stevie Wonder.
Venue to play.
Red Rocks.
Favorite venue to watch?
Favorite venue to watch in? Um, Eddie's Attic.
That's Atlanta, right?
Yes.
Um, a city to have a day off in.
Ooh, Taos, New Mexico.
Uh, Favorite movie?
Fried green tomatoes.
TV show?
I don't watch TV. I gotta pass on that one.
Okay, we'll go book if you like if you're a reader.
Okay, book. Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Oh, I don't know that one. Favorite food?
Mexican. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Texan, so I mean, it's my comfort food. It's my lasagna. I mean, Texans. I mean, just yeah, I can rice and beans and chips and salsa and guacamole all day and cake. Kidding me? So good.
Okay, these are your firsts. Your first concert you watched?
First concert was Santana.
Nice. What year?
So that would have been 95.
Okay. And your first concert you played?
Ooh, concert. Well,
Or just like a show, kind of, whatever you kind of deem kind of your first show.
my show would have been in my show choir, and that would have been like 1993. I was 14, I think. Yeah, and yeah, I got the solo, and it was sort of my first time ever singing in public, and it was terrifying. And my mom didn't even realize I could sing because I was pretty shy growing up as a kid, and yeah, so that was my first time, and I was shaking like a leaf, but it was fun. It was like riding a roller coaster. It was like I was scared to death, but once I got off, I was like, oh, let's do that again.
Yeah, we used to have to in in elementary school. We'd have to sing it every year, probably like 2 songs, and it's just like, yeah, I'm mouthing the words in the back. I'm not doing it. And I remember this one time. I think it was like maybe grade 6 or something. I apparently people noticed because one of my classmates like grabbed me and went, "You're gonna sing," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm not."
That's funny. I know. Well, it was once I got into choir, I found comfort in being surrounded by people, so I didn't feel quite alone. And it was my teacher after several months in choir that she said, I can hear you over all the other girls. And she was like, you've got a great voice, and I want to give you the solo. And that's when I was like, what solo? She's like, yes, you've got this great voice, and you're gonna sing this song. And anyway, I was just terrified, but she pushed me to do it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre how performing changes because, like, standing in front of a classroom, it's like the chest burster scene in Alien was going to happen. But if you had to act, like, there was a few in later high school, in classes where we had to act in front of the class, like with other people. But it was so much easier because you're playing a character. Like one thing we had to act out was the Crucible. So we each got a chunk in like a group. And it's like that was weirdly easier. Yeah, and it's like it's weird kind of the performing versus just kind of being yourself in front of people.
Yes, I 100% agree. And that's taken me a long time to get, yeah, because it's like I used to be terrified, and it was like would still do it over and over again. And I still get nervous before every show. And it is like you're putting on a performance, and then, you know, sometimes I'll get in my own brain about it, and it like I still have to, you know, take deep breaths backstage and stuff. And I don't know. It's a weird duality to be. I'm still kind of really reserved, and I'm like a introverted extrovert type of a person, and I enjoy quiet time and, you know, alone time. But then I am out there, and it's just a totally different thing, and it's just a whole other thing. But it's taken me years. I mean, I had a lot of people go like, well, if you're so nervous, like, why do you do it? You know, because it would just drive me nuts how nervous I would get. My stomach would hurt, and I would just be like, this isn't fun. Like, why am I doing this? But it was like once I got over that, and then ultimately was in the moment, in the performance, and then like kind of losing myself in that, then when I would get off stage, it would be almost like out of body, like, holy shit, I just did that. Like, that's crazy. And it did feel good. It's so weird. It's just a weird thing, you know, being a performer. Being a writer is like one thing, but then you got to get out there and perform them. Yeah, I never ever thought I would be doing what I do like this. So yeah, it's weird.
Speaking of performing, what do you have any shows coming up?
I do. I'm playing this Saturday at a listening room in New Braunfels. It's called the Redbird Listening Room, and it's a very intimate room. And yeah, talk about intimidating. There's everyone's like right there, like they sit in rows, and there's, you know, it's not a bar. There's nothing there, but it's just you and the audience, and they want to hear every song, every lyric, the stories behind the songs, and like all eyes are like on you, and it's fun. It's a totally different atmosphere than playing like at a festival, big show lights and stuff. Like this is really, really intimate. But that's coming up Saturday, and I'm playing with the trio, and I'm playing in Houston at the Continental Club in June, and playing the Old Quarter Cafe, which is another listening room, and that's down in Galveston. So I'm going to be hanging out in Texas, doing a lot of shows in Texas, and then in July I'm going back out on another radio tour to go hit another region. So that'll be fun. I'll be going to Colorado and the Northeast, and then I'm even going to make it to California too. So, and then heading up to Americana Fest in September. So got a, you know, a lot of stuff planned for the rest of the year.
Definitely. Just as we go, if you'd like to kind of plug yourself where people can find you and stuff like that.
Sure. You can go to seasonammons.com, and it's just like it's spelled SEASON, and that's AMMONS.com. And also I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, all the stuff. Plus, if you just Google Season Ammons, I don't even know what's out there. There's no telling.
It's just you out there.
We live in a digital age, so you have to assume at all times that everything is being recorded.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you. I'll let you get back to your afternoon.
Thank you. It was fun.
Okay, bye.
Peace.
I hope you liked my interview with Season Ammons. Again, thank you to Season for coming on and chatting with me. Leave a comment below on who you'd like me to see interview. And remember to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel a little bit more, and you can, there's ways to do so in the description box below. And check out my other interviews. either here on YouTube with the likes of Noah Guthrie and Tyler Bryant, as well as on backlinebeat.com, where I've got other interviews with Ali Venable and Ariel Posen and more. So thanks, and have yourself a good one.